Happy Monday, faithful. Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. Hope all of you out there had a fantastic weekend and your weeks are off to a great start. Speaking of this week, it's the return of 49ers football as this team is set to report to training camp in Santa Clara on Tuesday. And because it's the first day of training camp, roster battles, positional changes, this quarterback competition between Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold going to be one of the marquee storylines across the National Football League. We have to go live for it. I hope to see all of the real ones there. The live show officially gets underway 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific tomorrow on Tuesday. And when you hit that subscribe button, if you haven't already done so, as we are approaching 82,000 subscribers, make sure you turn on your notifications, hit that bell icon. Therefore, anytime we push out a video or anytime we go live, you will be notified. Before we take a look at today's show, the 49ers Report today on this fine Monday is sponsored by Kanzuri. Get 15% off at kanzuri.com/chat. We'll put that link in the comments section and in the description of this video, and we'll tell you more about today's presenting sponsor in just a few moments. So the purpose of today's show, because this entire team is going to report to the SAP Performance Center in Santa Clara on Tuesday, we're going to take a look at ESPN's roster projection for San Francisco, but also as part of that, take a look at some surprise cuts, players that do not make this roster projection. So let's officially get it underway. We first start with taking a look at the quarterback position. Brock Purdy well ahead of schedule in his rehab process. Not going to be able to throw at the start of training camp, I don't believe. At least that would be a huge surprise. So at the start, it's going to be a battle and a competition between Trey Lance and Sam Darnold to see who can maybe start week one if Brock Purdy is not ready, or who's going to be the backup behind Purdy if Purdy is in fact the guy. ESPN on the quarterback situation here from Nick Wagner. The Niners carried 3 quarterbacks last year, still didn't have enough to get through the NFC Championship game. They're likely to repeat that this year, even if a quarterback-needy team makes a substantial trade offer for Trey Lance. Veteran Brandon Allen is a solid 4th option and would likely get picked up if let go, but the Niners probably wouldn't mind having someone with his experience on the practice squad or on the roster if Trey Lance is dealt. Interesting that Nick Wagner there kind of taps into some potential possibilities of Trey Lance getting traded. We also got another glimpse of Trey Lance's mechanical changes this weekend. He was working with a videographer, Jeff Christensen, who is his private throwing coach, as well as Patrick Mahomes' private throwing coach. In the years prior to this year, the delivery, long and loopy. Now it is noticeably quicker and a lot faster to just throw the football. We'll see if that translates to the practice field and then, of course, the game field ideally as well. Now let's go to the running back position for the Niners, and they are pretty loaded here with a lot of talent. I think that Christian McCaffrey could put in a 2,000-yard all-purpose season. Elijah Mitchell, if healthy, one of the better backs who's a backup in this league, who has great vision, always finds a way to find positive yards. Jordan Mason, throughout OTAs, was displaying pass-catching ability. He's your physical bell cow. Then you have Ty Davis-Price in the mix here. Kyle Juszczyk, we're going to throw him in the mix as part of this running back room because it's just easier to do that. Juice, the best fullback in football, and of course takes a roster spot away from another running back possibility just because you have to have a fullback on this roster with how Kyle Shanahan likes to shake things out on the offensive side of the ball. ESPN and Nick Wagner on the running back situation here. San Francisco's track record of finding undrafted running back gems means someone like Ronald Aiyuk or Kalon Laybourne could emerge in camp, but this is a deep and talented group, and it will be hard to break through. And though Kyle Juszczyk is still the standard for fullbacks, keep an eye on Jack Coletto as an intriguing developmental prospect who could be a long-term replacement. The other week, I did talk about Jack Coletto as a guy to keep an eye out for as a future Kyle Juszczyk replacement. Going to be a lot cheaper than Juice. Wide receiver position. It's another position group that I like on this football team. If Deebo Samuel can be that guy that he was in 2021, look out. Brandon Aiyuk last year emerged as one of the best wide receivers in the game. Jauan Jennings is your prototypical security blanket and a guy who can beat zone coverage, good slot receiver. Ray McCloud going to make this team, of course, because of his return ability as a punt returner and kick returner. Danny Gray kind of on the roster spot here. And now we have our first surprise cut, the 7th round pick, Ronnie Bell out of Michigan, who I think in the future is going to be a Jauan Jennings replacement. Jennings back on that one-year deal, and I think that he's going to get a lot of money elsewhere because he's been very valuable for this Niners offense over the last few years as a former 7th-round pick out of Tennessee, emerged into a good player. Ronnie Bell, similar player, contested catch guy, very smart and heady football player, finds those gaps in the defensive coverage to make big plays. Surprise cut, though, from ESPN. Hopefully, if that is the case, would be a practice squad candidate because I do like his future. With that, let's tee up this question for the homies. Grade the Niners roster Madden style. EA Sports, it's in the game. Scale it for me, 1 to 100. Everybody is up in arms about these Madden ratings. I never really tap fully into that, but have some fun with grading the Niners roster Madden style in the comment section. We're going to get to the defensive side of the football here in just a second, but first, today's show, as I mentioned off the rip, is presented by Kanzuri. 15% off at kanzuri.com/chat. Now, a lot of you watching right now, you might look at this cool animation and you might ask yourself, what is Kanzuri? Well, have you ever wished you were a little bit taller, my fellas out there? Maybe you matched on Tinder, but her profile says must be over 6 feet tall. Maybe your date wants to wear heels, but she can't because it'll make her taller than you. That ain't good. Well, I got the Short Kings covered with today's sponsor, Kanzuri. Kanzuri makes shoes that make you up to 2.8 inches taller without anyone knowing. Look, girls get heels, makeup, and push-up bras. Why can't men get a confidence boost as well? We're all the same height lying down anyway, if you know what I mean. Kanzuri shoes, not only height boosting, but also stylish and comfortable. They're not Grandpa's Velcro shoes. Come on, Grandpa! But fashionable shoes that can receive compliments, even without the height increase, as evidenced by all of the different styles that we're showing you here on screen. The height insoles integrated into the shoes, making it the ultimate height hack. And for a limited time only, our listeners, our viewers, get an extra 15% off your order at kanzuri.com/chat. The site is already 30% off. And with our link, you get an extra 15%. That's 45% off your entire order. Simple math shows you that. Support our show. Check them out. kanzuri.com/chat. Life's short, but you don't have to be. It's time to level up the playing field, my fellas. Maybe update the dating profile to 6 feet. Kanzuri, absolute game changer when it comes to your dating life and all of the styles. Really nice athletic shoes, dress shoes as well. See for yourself. Link is in the chat, kanzuri.com/chat. Let's move forward with this roster projection here and some of these surprise cuts. Tight ends, George Kittle, Cameron Latu, Charlie Woerner, Brayden Willis, San Francisco in the draft taking Latu as well as Willis. So because of that, and because of Willis's special teams ability, Latu's potential in general, I think they both make the team. Now, is a familiar face not on this list? Yes, that would be Ross Dwelley. He has spent his entire 5-year career with San Francisco. I think it's time for the Niners to upgrade the backup tight end role. George Kittle's been injured a lot throughout his career. When healthy, the best all-around blocking and receiving tight end in the game. You need to start to replenish that position to a certain degree. You're able to do that with these young guys. That means a veteran has to be on the way out. So if Charlie Woerner makes it, Ross Dwelley does not. ESPN on the tight ends. It will be hard for rookies to make this roster, but this group should offer an exception. Latu, 3rd-round pick. He should stick. While Willis, impressed in the spring, brings versatility the Niners like. This scenario means veteran Ross Dwelley should be and could be on the outside looking in, but Dwelley has made a career of overcoming stacked odds. The other thing that benefits Willis, he could play special teams. He can also play H-back, fullback as well. To the offensive line. Some concerns here for sure. Not with Trent Williams, still the best all-around tackle in the game, in my opinion, on that Hall of Fame trajectory. I think Aaron Banks heading into year 3 has all-pro potential. Jake Brendel, a lot better than what I anticipated last year as a guy who up to that point was a journeyman. Spencer Burford's going to need a pretty big sophomore campaign to solidify his starting status this year and moving forward for this organization. The big looming question, Colton McKivitz, is he going to be able to hold up at right tackle? If not, it's going to be a massive problem. The Niners about middle of the road in offensive line spending and ranking their positional units going into this year, I think it's an important that they have neglected, and I disagree with it. John Feliciano, very good backup who can play center and guard. Hot seat for Jalen Moore. Nick Zakelj, we'll see if he can carve out a backup role. And then Matt Pryor, he could basically play every position along that offensive line outside of center. Offensive line, when I look at it, outside of the big questions with quarterback, it's the biggest weakness on the team. If Colton McKivitz falls apart, the Niners are going to be scrambling at that position. This offense, predicated on running it and throwing it. And if you can't open up holes to run it and you don't have time to throw it, another quarterback injury could happen, your season potentially derailed. To now, what I believe is the biggest strength of this team. That is defensive line. So you go from biggest weakness in the trenches offensively to the biggest strength in the trenches defensively. Nick Bosa leading the charge, coming off that Defensive Player of the Year campaign last year in which he notched 18.5 sacks. Big ticket free agent pickup in Javon Hargrave, who's a top 3 defensive tackle in the game, I believe, right now. He had 11 sacks last year. Eric Armstead, never a big sack producer, but occupies double teams, and his impact goes beyond the stat sheet. I always say he's a little bit underrated. Drake Jackson, big year for him going into year 2. Has to be able to provide Nick Bosa that protection on the other side of that line of scrimmage at edge. Cleveland Ferrell either going to start or be Drake's backup. And then the depth pieces, pretty solid here. Kevin Givens played good ball last year. Javon Kinlaw, if he's injured again, might not make this team. The Niners did bring back Kerry Hyder Jr., who was impressive before getting hurt at the end of last year. And then you look at the latter 2 depth spots here. Austin Bryant, Robert Beal Jr., the rookie edge out of Georgia. I really like his speed, first step, and elusivity coming around the edge. The surprise cut here would be T.Y. McGill, who the Niners picked up last year after the Vikings let him go. And he actually played good football at defensive tackle and was an underrated pickup at the time. I think he's going to make this team. I actually disagree with ESPN. And then another surprise cut is Kalia Davis, who did not play last year, recovering from that torn ACL that he suffered his final year at UCF. He's shorter, but very quick, and I'm interested to see what he can do in the preseason as well. This is a loaded position group, as ESPN notes. The competition at the depth spots will be fierce, but very few guarantees for the projected backups. Kinlaw entering the final year of his rookie deal, probably battling T.Y. McGill to become the backup nose tackle. Bryant and the rookie Beal could be seen as redundant, but the Niners love athletic edge rushers, so we'll give the nod to an extra outside rusher rather than an interior option, such as Kalia Davis, who could be placed on the practice squad. And Davis, definitely a practice squad candidate if he doesn't get claimed by the other 31 teams across the NFL. You lose Azeez Al-Shire at linebacker here. The big question, who's going to be his replacement? Now, Oren Burks, we have him listed number 3 here, but he's a special teams ace. You don't want him out there as a 3-down linebacker. I've said I like Marcelino McCrary-Ball. I think that he's played some good ball. ESPN actually not having him on the depth chart. Demetrius Flanagan-Foles and the rookie Jalen Graham making the team instead, but San Francisco, of course, paced by 2 of the best off-ball linebackers in the game, and Fred Woerner, who's the best off-ball linebacker, in my opinion, in justification, and then Dre Greenlaw, who last year played at a borderline all-pro level. As for the ESPN takeaway on the linebackers, top 3 should be locked in, but the battle for the other 2 spots will be tight. Drafted rookies Graham as well as D. Winters, Flanagan-Foles, Curtis Robinson, Marcelino McCrary-Ball will compete for probably 2 spots. Flanagan-Foles has been a valuable special teams contributor, and a special teams ability will go a long way in deciding which one of the others grabs a spot. Special teams are very important, ladies and gentlemen, and we saw 2 years ago, San Francisco's special teams was not good. In the Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles were not a good special teams unit, and they got thrashed by Kansas City. That's the reason why they lost that game. It can win you and lose you games in the regular season as well as in the playoffs. So if you can contribute on special teams, it allows you to make that roster. Like a guy like Jordan Mason last year. Running back competition was fierce. Contributed on special teams, made the squad, carved out a role to get some totes at the end of the day. Cornerbacks. The acquisition of Isaiah Oliver, I think, is going to be one that has fallen under the radar, but is going to prove to be very valuable. He's basically replacing Jimmy Ward with Jimmy Ward's snaps in the slot nickel area last year for this defense. He leaves for more money with Houston, and you bring in Isaiah Oliver, former second-round pick, who's had a good career up to this point. And then Samuel Womack, Ambry Thomas, going to be competing here with Charvarius Ward, Diamador Lenore as the top two corners. Ward, Lenore, your two top corners on the outside. I think Womack is safe to make this team. Ambry Thomas, not the case. And then the exclusion of Darrell Luter Jr., somewhat of a surprise here, even though he's starting camp on PUP. What did ESPN have to say about that? Well, here you go. Womack, Thomas, and rookie Darrell Luter Jr., the likely candidates for the final two spots in this group. Thomas seemed to be the odd man out before a strong spring, seemed to breathe life back into his roster chances. If he follows that up with a strong camp, he could quickly reassert himself into the mix. And Ambry Thomas is a rookie, third-round pick, after not playing in 2020 because of those COVID-shortened regulations, and he didn't play at all because he was an opt-out. He played well, right? Playoffs, end of the regular season. I know he kind of burst onto the scene in that Thursday night game against Tennessee back 2 years ago. Last year, couldn't sniff the field. Injuries, banged up, lack of production. If he does have a good camp just because he's a third-round pick with pedigree, he could make this team. I think Womack with his instincts, ball skills, ability to intercept it, pass deflections, I think that he's going to be a shoo-in for this team. The odd man out in the surprise cut here is the rookie fifth-round pick out of South Alabama, Darrell Luter Jr., who I'm high on, but earlier this offseason was injured. Now going into camp, placed on PUP. Can't make the club from the tub. Could be a practice squad candidate because of that. Two more groups to get to. First, safety. Talanoa Hufanga, All-Pro last year in year two. Tashawn Gibson, the veteran who was signed to be on the Niners practice squad, then played at an extraordinarily high level and was the reason why the Niners, once Jimmy Ward came back, because Gibson was picked up to aid the Niners team because Ward was hurt, they had to move Ward to slot nickel because Gibson was playing so well, and they wanted to have both of those guys on the field. Now, Jair Brown could unseat Gibson, the veteran, for starting opportunities, and then George Odom, an all-pro special teams player. Again, special teams, very, very important. So you look at that safety position, Hufanga is a shoo-in to start. The instinctual style in which he plays with, the feel for the game that he has really is tremendous. Can't bite on as many plays as he did last year because he did get burned. He's going to start. The question is, Jair Brown, the rookie, or the seasoned veteran in Tashawn Gibson, who's played at a high level for a really, really long time. And then specialists here, because specialists are people too. If Jake Moody does not make this team, that is a disaster. You drafted a kicker in the third round. You could have gotten an offensive tackle, for instance, who's a part of this team for the foreseeable future there, at more of a position of strength. Robbie Gould wanted to come back. You didn't even contact him throughout free agency. You drafted a kicker in the third round. You better hope that he's going to be on this squad for a long time. Mitch Wishnowsky, good rebound year in 2022 compared to 2021 at punter. And then Tabor Pepper, a very good long snapper. So with that, how about this? Which side of the ball is better? We just looked offense, defense. Is it O for offense, D for defense? Let me know down in the comments section. Ladies and gentlemen, football is almost back. 49ers reporting the training camp on Tuesday, and we're going to be going live for day one of camp, 5 o'clock Eastern, 2 o'clock Pacific. Turn on those notifications, subscribe to the show, and we'll catch you next time here on the 49ers Report. Thanks for watching.